Pass in Baltimore. Kind of ugly evening at Camden Yards on Tuesday night, and the Orioles offense sort of picked up right from there. Luke Jones was chronicling it. Dude, I know I text you like in the second or third inning, and I looked at the weather forecast, and I'm like, you know what? They're going to be playing this one at midnight, big boy. You know, they're gonna pull that tarp on just the way they did to you on Monday night, but they never whipped the tarp out. It clearly was less people even than Monday night that wanted to go out and brave it, and I had some fun with some people. Not fun, just honestly how I feel. Like, I just would not go out there on a night like that. It looked like the players didn't want to be there. The umpires didn't want to be there. I guess you were okay. You get free hot dogs in like a warm space and a dry space, but it looked miserable at the ballpark on Tuesday night, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it way worse. I've seen them play in way worse. I mean, it certainly wasn't ideal.
I've never seen fewer people. Over
Right.
a 9-inning game that never got delayed, that right there. Well, I have seen fewer people. I watched that act 2 years ago when they shut the doors. But I literally don't ever remember 9 innings of baseball with less human beings at an Orioles game than Tuesday, where it looked like, why are you playing? In my opinion. Now, I know, look, the Players Association, I've been through all this, you know, with days off and doubleheaders and losing money, and I get all that, but I don't even know how the 800 people that showed up because it just didn't look like a night I would want to be out. I live 2 blocks away. If you'd have given me tickets, I'd have said maybe up underneath.
Right. And I mean, the reality is, this is kind of what you bargained for in April, and that's why people don't go to games in April. And I'm not talking about Orioles. I'm talking about,
baseball.
Generally in baseball.
Yeah, I saw Cincinnati last week, right?
Yeah, you don't see great attendance in April because, for every nice game or nice week that you might have, and overall the weather, if you remember the first homestand, wasn't too bad considering it was early April. But you could have 2 weeks worth of weather like what the Orioles had on Tuesday night and Monday night, quite frankly. So it's just one of those things where, short of having retractable roofs everywhere, short of having games solely played in cities that are in the South or warmer, and trying to figure out how to do that. I mean, you're just going to have to kind of grit your teeth and play through it. And that's because short of canceling 2 weeks worth of games, it's kind of what you have to do. Now, there are extreme times, and I remember there was a game last year. It was a Saturday. I think it might have been against Tampa Bay, where they tried to play and then it ended up getting postponed. Now, that was miserable. That was straight rain. That was 40 degrees with 20-mile-per-hour winds. What they had the last couple of nights paled in comparison to that.
But playing in the second inning and in the 8th inning, when it was just slobber knocking down, I don't know what the answer to that is when it's going to rain like that for 12 to 15 minutes and they're just going to play through it. I mean, Davis had to field the ball at one point. Palmer was talking about just how hard that is to do when the ball is soaking, wringing wet by the time it gets to you, and that's baseball. I mean, they've chosen to play in it. Clearly 800 people showed up. Clearly I'm the only guy thinking that it's insane. I mean, I think it's insane that they expect people to come out. And I think, to your point, baseball, and look, I've been at this for 40 years. When it was $2 to get in on a cold night in April, and my dad and I had a Jones, maybe in a cold night, when it's 80 and you can walk up in April like it was the first week of the season, people chose to walk to Light City. There were 40,000 people at Light City and 8,000 people 2 blocks away at the game, and that's very simple. That's obvious. Light City was free, right, and the ball game's $20 to get in now. It's not $5 anymore, and it's not a giveaway, and it's not in April we'll let you in for $5 and make hot dogs $1 or something like that. I don't know what that. I think on Tuesday night that weather belies price, hot dog price, free beer. I just wouldn't go sit in it. I'm a grown-up, and I thought these things through. And much like you, hey, there'll be a 72-degree night next month. If I'm going to go spend $23 to sit in the outfield to watch the Rays, I'll go watch the Tigers in May, or I'll go watch the Marlins in June, or whatever it is. Bad weather nights, because there's 82 of them. I mean, who the hell would sit in a movie theater and watch a movie in the rain when they could do it where it's dry? I mean, I don't know. That's pretty fundamental, and I think in the era where every game's on, you know it's on at home, you're already paying for it to be on at home, there is less and less. I go back to the old NFL blacking games out and the Orioles in the 70s where they didn't put the games on television. That would be the only incentive to go down there is if you couldn't watch it anywhere else, and clearly doesn't make for very good optics, right? It doesn't make for very good baseball either. And I guess that's my argument, Luke. I mean, we'll get to the 2 hits. We'll get to them not hitting the ball out of the infield. We'll get to how poorly the offense was. But part of that is just mojo, too. And playing on a night like that, it isn't very inspiring, even if you're making $18 million a year like Adam Jones, right?
Yeah, well, they won the night before. I mean, they hit 3 home runs over a 5-batter span. I mean, I hear the point you're making. I think this is far more a fundamental. To me, it sounds like you want to shorten the baseball season by 30 games because that's really the only way you're going to get around that. You're going to have bad weather. You're going to have way worse weather than what they've had the last couple nights. I mean, and I'm not look, I'm not going to sit here and say it was nice weather, but at the same time, it's been way colder. I've seen games that they've played in that have been far more. There's been far more precipitation. I mean, it's just.
I think it's an insult to the people that get in their car and pay the money. That's what I think. Because I've been that guy. I've been that guy a lot where I've sat in rain delays and gotten wet and gotten caught in thunderstorms trying to rush. I mean, I've done all that, and I just
hear you. But we also celebrate this kind of weather during football season, right? I mean, how many games have you sat where
Plenty.
you've sat at M&T Bank Stadium where it's been 25 degrees
I have a
colder
purple
than
poncho.
that?
I do. It's true.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it's. This is kind of.
Well, if you want a conversation point, the conversation point is they played the game, they got it in, they were right, I'm wrong. 852 people showed up, and they're okay with it. And the 852 people that showed up were okay with it. I had some guy hit me on Twitter saying, "You're out of your mind. It's lovely out here." I'm like, you're just an ass. I don't know what to say. I'm sitting here watching it on TV thinking, I'm glad I'm not there. I mean, and watching the rain come down and watching pitchers palm the ball and thinking, this is dumb. At least pull the tarp out. I mean, why are you? Again, Pete, we're in a wacky society at this point. I mean, people can make excuses for anything.
Well, when did it rain so badly that they couldn't play the game?
Well, I think the second inning they could have pulled the tarp out. I mean, I thought it was a little absurd.
Okay. I mean, it was a consistent mist. I agree with you on that, but it wasn't pouring down rain or anything like that. I mean, I'm just going to have to disagree with you on this. Look, you're going to have bad weather in April. You're going to have bad weather in September. I mean, short of making it a 120-game season, which, by the way, I mean, if someone wants to make that argument, I'll hear that. I mean, I'm not saying I would like to.
Bobblehead night in June's far more appealing, and more people will show up. I get it.
But at the same time, you have to remember that the business model for any Major League Baseball team at this point, in this day and age with HD television and just any market, no one's realistically expecting an 81-game sellout every single night. I mean, maybe Fenway Park, but that's also because they have they have a smaller stadium. They have fewer seats. They have a smaller capacity.
I've lowered my expectations on all that, bro. There's another baseball team 38 miles away. I mean, I get it. I mean, the world is upside down here. I mean, and that they can make money off it, and it's far more beneficial for them to get it in, as they like to say, than it is to not. I get why they press forward, and here we are next day, and, other than losing, they were glad to get it in, right? I mean, and they didn't play well, and that's the other part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's they pitched well overall. Wade Miley certainly wouldn't have wanted to walk 6 guys, but he did it over 7 innings and only gave up 2 runs. But, it's one thing to be shut out. It's one thing to be limited to 2 hits, but when you hit 4 balls out of the infield the entire night, I mean, this wasn't a good night for the Orioles offense, to say the least. I mean, it was easily their worst performance of the season, and they didn't mount much offense. It was a weird night. Kevin Cash, the Rays manager, scratched Erasmo Ramirez, his starter, 20 minutes before first pitch.
I bet Buck was pleased with that, right?
Well, I'll say this. Buck said it was no excuse to go through all the advanced scouting on all the pitchers in the bullpen, but it was kind of strange because, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the weather, but it was never a point where there was a downpour or anything remotely close to that for you to suddenly say 20 minutes before the game that you're not going to.
Well, who knows what the gamesmanship is? The Rays probably thought the game should have been banged, and maybe they thought, okay, we'll do this instead. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Clearly people don't like Buck around base. I mean, clearly the Orioles, being a good team, being a team that's beaten other teams, nobody's looking to give the Orioles a pass or feel sorry for them, and Buck would be the first one to say that. I don't know. Again, I don't ask the questions around there, but part of that is maybe the Rays thought that they were better served to do it that way and playing for themselves for whatever their reason was, because clearly they didn't want to put Ramirez out there. I mean, they didn't, right? And he would have been their best chance to win, even though they won, right?
Yeah, and I mean, but we're also not talking about Erasmo Ramirez isn't David Price. I mean, we're not talking about.
Well, there's keeping guys on turn.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. And look, I'm not sure how you make an argument that you're really going to be that better served doing that anyway. So I don't know if it was gamesmanship. I don't know if it was more just paranoia. But, there's a reason why baseball has probable pitchers, and you announce that. And look, if your pitcher strains a hamstring or does something warming up to get hurt, or if he's sick, that's one thing. 20 minutes before first pitch, that's a little, and again, Mark Trumbo shot it down right away when I asked him about it. He said it's not an excuse. We were ready for all the guys that we saw in the bullpen. We didn't get the job done. Buck was the same way, but I can almost guarantee behind closed doors that was one of those things where it's like, really? That's kind of it seemed a little whatever. Because like I said, I mean, the forecast is, as much as it was less than ideal, there was never a point where, a downpour kind of system came through. And, the heaviest rain that they had over the course of the night was the 8th and 9th innings. So, I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of weird, but at the same time, it's not an excuse when you only have 2 hits and when they retire 18 of the final 19 hitters that went to the plate. So, I mean, it's just, you just chalk it up to, a bad night offensively, and it's unfortunate because they wasted a pretty solid effort from Wade Miley, who walks aside, pitched pretty darn well, and only gave up 2 runs over 7. You'll take that anytime.
Hey, that's all we're asking for from Miley, right? Give us a chance to win every 5th day, and he certainly did that. And look, with their offense, they could have had Koufax or Gibson come back and brought Palmer out of the booth there where he was dry. So moving along with them and the lineup, where are we with the outfield in your mind? I mean, clearly this is still a feeling out period. They've played far better baseball than I thought they were going to play this month. Tuesday night aside, I mean, they are a first-place team. They've been the best team in baseball for a couple of weeks. But I'm always the guy, and I guess in the 90s I railed against batting Cal Ripken third every night, right, or having the same set lineup. I know Buck probably, in his old school way, would have liked to at least have all the situations and all the bases covered against all the starters. You feel like we're there yet?
Well, I mean, I think the big questions right now, I mean, first of all, at the outfield, I mean, I think it's kind of clear-cut how they're handling it. I mean, Seth Smith and Kim are playing against right-handed starters. Lefty starters, that's a little more in question. It appears that Trey Mancini, we haven't seen him in the outfield since the first 2 weeks or so. It's been more Trumbo in right field. They DH Mancini. I think very much, Craig Gentry, I'm not sold on him, especially I'm not sold on him leading off against left-handed pitching. But Joey Rickard, supposed to come off the DL, could come off the DL as soon as Friday. Now, how they fit both of those guys on the roster, I think, is a very good question. But as far as the lineup itself, to me, kind of 2 things stick out right now. It's not to say that everyone else is tearing the cover off the ball, but Manny Machado's hitting 188. The silver lining for him, and why I'm not as concerned about him, if you're watching the games, he's been hitting a lot of balls hard, and doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. I mean, he hit a couple balls right on the nose on Tuesday night right at fielders. So I think he's going to be fine. The guy that I'm concerned about right now is Trumbo. He's hitting 203, and if you watch him, he's not seeing the ball well. He's not hitting the ball hard. There's some hittable pitches that I've seen him not be able to take advantage of over the last couple weeks, and this looks a lot like how he looked in the second half last year.
Well, the ball's going to miss the bat a lot. Davis, I mean, that's that's their game, right? So when they look bad, they're really going to look bad because they're not going to make contact, right?
Sure. But the thing with Trumbo it's a little disconcerting is that last year in the second half, now he still hit a lot of home runs, so it's not as though he was completely unproductive after the All-Star break, but everything else, he was hitting doubles in the first half of the season, was hitting for a decent average.
Well, he's leading the team in at-bats right now, and he's getting up on 100 at-bats, and he has 1 home run.
And it's not just that. He's not hitting doubles. He's slugging 284 right now. I mean, that just shows you that, the average aside, batting average only tells you so much, but
he's also not walking either.
Yeah,
so.
He's not walking.
Different than Davis.
He's not hitting for any power. The hits he's getting are not home runs, or they're not extra base hits. So, again, I'm not trying to panic or saying that he should be benched, although I think you could make an argument maybe a night off for him just to clear his head, give Mancini the start at DH, and maybe you give him the night off, and then he's good to go then to start the road trip. But other than that, the rest of the lineup, J.J. Hardy at this point, it is what it is. I think he'll get it going a little bit more, but we know he's not the guy he was 3 or 4 years ago. That much is obvious. But
is he still going to be the shortstop in August, in your opinion?
Yeah. Who else is it going to be? Short of putting Ryan Flaherty at third base and putting Machado at short, or putting Flaherty at shortstop.
I'm always dubious on the health. They've played 19 games. He's played 18. There's going to be 35 he doesn't play. I got to figure out which ones they are. I know they weren't in April. Right?
Sure. And now that's a different story. If Hardy's not healthy, which clearly could be a possibility, and I think he's relatively healthy now, at least as healthy as he's going to be at in his mid-30s, but it's certainly a case where the production's not going to be there like it was 4 or 5 years ago. It's just where they are. He's in the final year of his contract, and that's a good thing, quite frankly. So we'll see how that plays out. But Hardy has a lot of trust with Buck Showalter, and we're going to continue to see him out there. And for a while he was swinging the bat better. That he's cooled off again, so we'll see how that plays out. But overall, I think this lineup, for the most part, has taken shape. I think there were some questions, and I know Buck was asked about it a lot over the weekend with Kim, with him not playing a whole lot early in the season. But been a lot of left-handed starters. I'd like to see Kim get some chances against lefties. I really would, because he hasn't really gotten extended shots, and quite frankly, they don't hit left-handed pitching as a team well enough to justify him never playing against lefties. But beyond that, the lineup, it's kind of taken shape, and they're not firing on all cylinders. They really haven't all year offensively, but they've hit enough, and they've certainly pitched well enough that they have one of the best records in baseball, even with Tuesday's loss. So they'll get it going offensively. But right now, the one name that kind of sticks out for me as being a concern, just because the numbers tell a story, and then how he looks from an optics standpoint. That's Mark Trumbo.
He is Luke Jones. Baltimore Luke finds him. Luke at WNST.net. He will be at the conclusion of this homestand on Wednesday night as the Orioles take on the Rays. And weather gets better as the Orioles leave town. So if you're going up to New York to see any of the games this weekend, they'll be in Boston next week as well. We'll be monitoring the draft on Thursday night. We'll move from baseball to football mode. Bundy and Cobb in the conclusion of this set, Luke. And I guess every fifth day we expect Dylan Bundy to go out there and be pitching at 9:28 on Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, it's just that's what it's become. He's going to have some bad starts this year. Everyone does, but that slider, we've talked about it, slider, cutter, whatever you want to call it, it's been a game changer for him. And I think you really notice the difference with that compared to how he pitched last year. That's not to say he didn't have some great starts last year, but you've seen him with that slider in his arsenal. Hitters just don't pick that up. They don't pick up the spin on it. I think for so many batters at the plate facing him, it looks like the fastball, but it's considerably slower. It has good movement, and it's become a game changer for him. He gets lots of swings and misses with it. He's been able to pick up lots of strikeouts with that to this point. And you knock on wood, cross your fingers, whatever you want to do. It doesn't appear that it's had an impact on him from a physical standpoint. That was a concern, remember, a couple years back when he was in the Arizona Fall League and throwing that pitch and kind of felt some tightness in his forearm. So, that's why they shelved it last year, but he's reintroduced it into his arsenal, and it's worked out really, really well for him. So, it's been interesting because we haven't seen him have great velocity. I mean, he's been in the low 90s. It's not as though he's not throwing hard at all, but, last year there were times where we saw him throw 95, 96. This year he's kind of comfortably been in that 92, 93 range. But when you have that with a curveball, with a straight changeup against lefties, and then with that slider that's become so effective against right-handed hitters, you have 4 pitches like that, and if you can command at least 3 of those pretty consistently on a given night, gives you a great chance to win. And that's what we've seen from Dylan Bundy. That's why he has a 1.37 ERA through his first 4 starts. So it's been fun to watch, and I said this last year when he had that stretch where he was really firing on all cylinders. Early on in the second half of last season, when he pitches, it's very rapidly entering that appointment television territory. That's how much I enjoy watching him pitch.
Gausman and Sabathia on Friday, Jimenez and Pineda on Saturday, and Miley and Montgomery on Sunday up at the Bronx, the big house, as they say. Meanwhile, we'll get through this game, and hopefully it won't rain, and hopefully it'll get over at a decent hour, because you got to get some rest. We got some late nights out in Owings Mills, you holding the purple vigil on this 16th pick. I've had Coach Billick on this week. I've had Phil Savage. You can go listen to any of that up in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault. By the way, all of our trips now on sale. Nashville, Green Bay, Minnesota, London. We got an updated trip to London. I know a lot of folks are already signed up for that thing. $100 off for anybody that buys this week or next week. You'll probably see it out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all that stuff too. But the draft itself, we get down to these final hours, and we got a kid who went out in Cleveland the other night that now has rape allegations, right? A kid that was going to be a top 10 pick, a kid that I think the Ravens were probably looking at the cornerback position, certainly was on their board at some level. Dude, between Bong gas masks and allegations and the week of, and, whether all these medicals, the paralysis by analysis on all of this stuff, and I'm certainly not in any way diminishing, this kid from Ohio State and Cleveland, but it's really a gotcha game, isn't it, for all these kids who've ever done anything wrong, and leading right on up until the night of the draft. Once I see the Bong gas mask last year, it really let me know that anything's possible in the era where every one of these kids has been seen on video doing something, maybe even telling a joke, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's why, it's one thing if it's something on social media, as you mentioned with the Laramie Tunsil thing, but it's
dude, that's like out of a Saturday Night Live skit. If I came and I told you that happened, a year ago, yeah, in 1985 that would have been unheard. It would have been
sure.
But now anything's possible.
Sure. That's why if I were an agent, I would just throughout the pre-draft process certainly, and even talking about it, telling these guys to go back and you know what. Go back and look at your tweets from 2 or 3 years ago, and spend a couple days. And if there's anything questionable, if there's anything on there that's going to get you in trouble, get rid of it. It's just that's what I'd be telling these guys to lay low, don't go out anywhere, stay at home, stay by yourself. Don't It's just and look, that's not to say that the kid that you're talking about, Conley. Those are very serious allegations, and I'm not saying that he was duped or anything like that. He might have done something horrible, but my point is...
If he did, he's the dumbest man on earth, but we've seen the dumbest man on earth. There's always a new one, right? There's a sucker born every moment, right?
There's stupidity and there's being a bad person. What he's accused of is something that's a heinous act. Laramie Tunsil with the Bong video, that was just...
Well, the question would be, what were you doing with the girl at 4 o'clock in the morning after being out at the bar all night 4 days before the draft, So, that would be like, oh, this is the guy we're getting. So what's going to happen once we give you, $8 million? Even that alone, no matter what happens, or whether it's right, wrong, good, bad, it's a story, and he cost himself, she, they, it. This situation has cost him millions and millions of dollars. I know that much right away. I could tell that 48 hours out.
Yeah, well, you have that, and then you have Reuben Foster, and with a diluted sample. I mean, these are the kind of things that really make you take pause and say, do I want to invest a first-round pick in a guy like that who is a failed drug test away from being suspended for 4 games? Or I mean, it's just these are the kind of things that can ruin your status or at least hurt your status considerably. And if I'm a team looking at that kind of stuff and you're trying to figure this out, and we've already talked about the amount of volatility this year. I mean, this is such a difficult draft to figure out. I mean, it's not just because the Ravens are picking in the middle of the first round, but beyond the top 4 or 5 prospects, trying to figure out prospects 16 through 25, there's not a whole lot of difference there. And I don't mean that as a negative on this draft. It means that there are a lot of really good football players, but trying to figure out how these guys all kind of stack up, and I know Eric DeCosta's talked about this, and lots of draft experts have talked about this. It's really difficult to figure that out. I mean, right now, you ask me who I think the Ravens are going to draft, I could fire off 12 names probably that would have a reasonable shot, and it's just going to be how it all.
Yeah, I don't think Ozzie knows. I mean, I used to do this thing every year. I guess you could never do it in the modern era. Maybe they would trust me that much, but they would literally put the person that they think the organization is going to take first in an envelope for me, and I would seal it, and I would break them out at the barn on Monday. All my old school listeners remember this, and how many times they'd be right and wrong. I mean, Coach Billick would write a name down in an envelope and put it in, and and it's just a guess. Literally, they don't know because they have no idea. If a Mike Williams or an O.J. Howard were actually, or Derek Barnett, if those kind of names come off at 16, I would be happy with any of those names because based on the information that I have, those are all really valid top 10 kind of guys that there would have to be 3 quarterbacks or 2 quarterbacks or someone taking a dive higher up on someone that I'm unaware of. But, Williams, Howard, Barnett are guys that if they fell, I would be really happy with any of those 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be totally honest. When you have as many needs as the Ravens have, and look, I mean, you go into the draft every year having at least 2 or 3 needs. This year, it's more like in that neighborhood of 5 needs that the Ravens have, because, I mean, just think about it. Wide receiver, center, right tackle, edge rusher. You could
running back.
Still, I mean, I don't know if running back's a major need for them. I mean, I think it's way more about the offensive line. If Leonard Fournette would happen to fall to 16, that could change the game for the Ravens. But it's very clear that they have a number. Inside linebacker I didn't mention. They have a number of needs. So I think the good news is from that standpoint. Now, I don't know if that's good news for their 2017 prospects necessarily, but it's good news for the fact that you should have at least a few players sitting there at 16 that will address a need that should stack up favorably from your board standpoint. So I don't have a strong preference in that standpoint. To me, it's just you got to hit on this pick. It's got to be someone who plays right away. It's got to be someone who plays at a high level. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to find a guy that...
A starting player when you have 5 positions open, right?
Yeah,
literally,
and
right?
You want it to be an above-average starting player, too. You want it to be someone who, maybe not as a rookie, but is someone that's in Pro Bowl contention over the next couple of years. I mean, that's not especially in this draft, when they've talked about how deep the talent pool is, 2-3 rounds deep where you can find impact starters. That's not an unreasonable expectation. So whatever the position might be, you hope they find that guy. And whether it's a wide receiver like a Williams or a Corey Davis, who Corey Davis is kind of a guy I'm intrigued by, but that probably means they're not going to take him. That's just the way it works. I know a lot of people clamoring for wide receivers, but there's certainly plenty of guys that are intriguing. Hassan Reddick from Temple, a guy who's kind of a jack-of-all-trades linebacker who can do lots of different things. So, there are going to be some good football players there at 16. It's just a matter of the Ravens picking the right one. And I don't think they have to marry themselves to one position. There are lots of different directions they could go, and that's a good thing. Now they just got to nail the pick and got to nail the second-round pick and got to do well with those rest of those day 2 picks and hope that you can have the kind of day like they did last year on day 3 when they found so many talented players in the 4th and 5th rounds. You do that, this team puts itself in really good position, not just talking about this year, but moving forward, trying to kind of replenish the talent pool on this roster.
He is Luke Jones. Baltimore Luke finds him out on Twitter. And, of course, he will be manning Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday night and probably sticking the WNST mic flag in front of, I don't know, Dylan Bundy after the game or whatever. We hope for a good effort from him. Hope for better weather than on Tuesday night and certainly a better offensive output as well. Draft night is Thursday night. Luke and I will be on that all over social media. And, of course, I'll be rocking the red. We'll be broadcasting live from Pittsburgh next. How do you feel about Pittsburgh next week, Luke? I mean, the fact that I'm signing, you and I have spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh. The one thing we've rarely done is spent a night, though, right?
That is true.
I'm spending 3 consecutive nights in Pittsburgh. Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I'm hoping to not come back down 3-1 or something crazy. I'm predicting good things this week for the Caps. I for whatever reason, I have a feeling I'm going to Pittsburgh and coming back up 3-1. That's what I feel like they'll be able to close it out in 5. That's my opinion.
Well, that would certainly be good news for the Caps. And if they're going to ever break through the glass ceiling, it kind of makes sense that it comes against Pittsburgh, right? I mean, Pittsburgh's been the team that's knocked them off on their way to Stanley Cup champion.
I want to be there to witness it. I want to see Sidney Crosby have to shake hands and go home and golf is what I want to do. So
it's not exactly the same, but you think about the Red Sox in 2004. Who'd they have to go through? They came back down 0-3 to the Yankees. This feels like that on a smaller scale from a national interest standpoint. But
hey, man, Caps Penguins has almost become Ravens Steelers for the hockey vernacular.
Sure.
You know, this is the premier series there is, and with star players and a lot of cups and a lot of want, and maybe Orpik somewhere in the middle. I don't know, but dude, 3 days in Pittsburgh. Anybody that's got restaurant tips, bring them on. I got nothing but time to kill. We'll be doing radio up there as well. We're in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. All the road trips are up. It's $100 off. Just send me an email. We'd love to help you out. Nasty@WNST.net. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And don't forget, Luke's going to have you up to date on everything on the text service. So if you're on the WNST text service, it's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday getting you ready for the draft. Hey, busy weekend, right? Caps, Wizards, Orioles, draft. Can't ask for more, and we're going to get good weather as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.